Dear ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining and welcome to Switzerland. This year, MedTech is again taking place without the alluring gingerbreads Nuremberg is known for, but at least we do not have to mask our joy of free information exchange and take it globally. Therefore, before I start, allow me to encourage you to join in the Q&A session after my presentation with any questions, comments, or feedback that comes to mind. I look forward to a lively discussion. I represent here the company Innovative Sensor Technology and shall be talking about sensor elements for physical parameters such as mass flow measurement from the perspective of evolving requirements for sensor technology. So why do requirements for sensors used in medical devices evolve over time? Many of you will think of new legislations from EU, but I would like to start with the patient and having his comfort in mind. There is a clear trend towards health monitoring and favoring measuring principles which can be applied in a non or minimally invasive manner. A growing number of sensors allows also compels us to do complex signal evaluation. Whether the user is a medical practitioner or an operator of a simple wearable device, he or she is confronted with more data in need of interpretation than ever before. Due to this data overload, there are understandably calls for making sense of collected sensor data before the user is even involved. One of the lessons from the current pandemic is for sure how precious the time of qualified nurses and doctors is. This, coupled with high standards for hygiene, translates not only in critical care into a continuous trend toward single-use equipment, including sensors for patient monitoring. The more trust is placed in sensors, the more important traceability of their calibration, materials, and other quality components becomes. In order to make the benefits of sensor monitoring readily available, it is important to take also economic aspects of the manufacturing process into account. A new sensor element specification can therefore reflect also a need to lower assembly costs or the calibration effort. The trends I would like to address here are therefore miniaturization, dynamic signal evaluation, and new measuring principles. Let's have a look at how new sensors are to operate. We strive for intelligent monitoring solutions which would lower the response time to critical conditions. First, of course, we need to define them, but sensor systems in principle are to trigger actions. Whether it is immediate care or further extensive testing. With increased responsibility, it is only natural for the requirements to change as well. Very basic is the need for a sensor to be reliable, selective, unobtrusive, and to operate autonomously if possible. It might sound simple, but it takes a lot of engineering skills to achieve. From my personal experience with medical projects, it is crucial to establish a clear understanding of the targeted purpose and functionality among all stakeholders responsible for product design. I'll come back to this topic at the end of my presentation, but for now I'm happy to report that also the way project teams operate in today's digitalized world evolves in a positive manner. The time we save by traveling less can be applied to make sure we do not lose sight of these usability criteria while milling through the process of a particular task of product design. It is very encouraging to see more stakeholders get involved already in early design phases of application-specific sensor solutions. So what is the role of our company? How does IST contribute? The sensor elements we manufacture using our thin film and thick film technology portfolio are used in many different industries. We pride ourselves in being the go-to sensor company for customized solutions because apart from delivering quality sensors, we combine our knowledge to provide application and integration support at the physical layer where the sensing actually takes place. To give you a visual of our headquarters, which you see in this larger picture, the ground floors of our building are filled with clean rooms where the actual magic happens in a healthy combination of automated and manual manufacturing and quality assurance steps. And then the whole first floor and half of the second floor houses our research and process engineering teams. From this, you can already imagine that the innovation, which is in our name, is truly for many IST employees actually daily business. There are also additional production sites in Freiburg, where our competence center for biosensors and microfluidics is located. Some of you might know Jobs Technologies. Then in Berlin, where our newest addition, InnoScreen, manufactures DNA and RNA extraction kits, as well as in Czech Republic, where we have additional assembly capabilities. Please allow me to focus the next part of my presentation on mass flow sensors to make the discussion evolving requirements easier to grasp. Flow sensors are used in medical devices for gas or liquid flow detection, as well as for mass flow measurement. A typical medium with an ever-growing application field is breathing air. In this, I would include everything from spirometry, ventilators, inhalators, to lung function and breathing gas analysis. The devices then take shape in form of critical care system or analytical instruments, as well as handheld devices available in your local drugstore. Microfluidic systems are another application field which I would like to address because they help reduce sample quantity in patient monitoring, as well as finding use in cell culture-based laboratory experiments, such as organ-on-chip test platforms for drugs. I'll concentrate on these two application fields, but would use this opportunity to mention that mass flow sensors are used also in less visible places, controlling vacuum pump operation or analytical gas or cooling liquid supply. Many of these measuring points used to be monitored primarily by pressure sensors, and now flow sensors are incorporated in order to fine-tune the control options. IST provides flow sensors which use the thermal principle. It is a typical example of miniaturization of a classic. Hot wire anemometry is a reliable measuring method which is well characterized by now and has the charm of adaptability in regard to flow range, geometry, and also having a very low hardware integration cost. There are several variations of this thermal mass flow principle. What they have in common is that they are based on heat dissipation from a microheater into the media. I would introduce you to a particular flow sensor without going into too much technical details, and introduce MFS02, which I call here a flow sensor chameleon because it has proven its worth for safety systems which are in operation for over a decade, as well as for single-use sensors with an operational span in minutes or hours. The sensor layout is designed in such a way that 4 active elements can operate on a single chip. We can benefit from the fast and reproducible sensor signal, whether the goal is to monitor an hyperventilating professional athlete gulping liters of air before a run, or whether the measuring task consists in detecting a newborn child sucking down a few milliliters of milk. Sensor integration plays a crucial role not only in assembly cost but also in the calibration, which we need to require the desired accuracy level. That is why IST is often involved either to consult or to create diverse sensor assembly. A sensor can be then incorporated directly into a flow cell or pre-assembled in a housing with a cable and a connector, maybe with a small EEPROM along with that. Or it can be bonded on a positioning PCB, as you see in these example pictures. To get from a passive sensor elements we've been discussing up to now to a measuring module, we need signal processing hardware and software. Our flow sensor Chameleon can switch between different evaluation methods. With a classic constant temperature anemometry, as you can see in the top picture, we can use the sensor to cover a dynamically changing flow rate. To stick to air analysis, we can evaluate a child's or an adult's breathing with less than 2% accuracy. And we do that by evaluating the heating power required to maintain a constant over temperature on the microheater. Another way to use the signal from the MFS02 sensor is to monitor the temperature difference between two sensing elements strategically positioned on both sides of the microheater. By that, we gain an additional information, the flow direction. This can be used as a nice safety feature, for example, in the mentioned vacuum pump. Both of these evaluation methods can, of course, be also combined into a single integrated board. Designing a sensor into a medical application usually requires extensive evaluation and qualification testing. I am a strong supporter of prototyping and testing because it frames expectations into a physical reality of what can be achieved and what limitations have to be overcome during the product design phase. Taking a simple evaluation board like this one into your hands goes there already a long way. Here are some flow curves to illustrate what the raw signal of a flow sensor can be responsible for. In case of this sensor, you see at the beginning a steep rise of the signal, which then translates into excellent sensitivity at low flow rates. That's actually a feature that this type of sensing method is best known for. Moving on to microfluidics and thereby the next level of miniaturization, let me share a sensor concept design in our Freiburg Competence Center with you. This flow sensor with a patented evaluation method can be used to decipher flow rates in microfluidic measuring cells, which it can share the space with other sensors, such as in this case amperometric glucose and lactate biosensors. These type of multi-parametric sensor arrays are, I believe, the logical next steps in the evolution of sensor designs. And I would like to use this as an example to show you that we can accommodate sensor integration actually already on the substrate level. Microfluidic flow measurement is a recurring R&D topic discussed on many fairs, and I believe that it will gain new importance with initiatives aiming for wearable monitoring systems, for example, for sepsis prevention or for continuous or periodic sweat analysis. Here are some microfluidic flow measurements to give you an idea what can be done. We can detect flow direction and easily linearize the raw signal for a flow rate up to 30 microliters per minute in this case. even through, again, we are applying a microheater in this system. You can rest assured that any biomolecules or cells flowing by the flow sensor are certainly in no danger of overheating here. Let's now come back to the topic of collaborative product design. One could perceive sensors, hardware and software as complexity layers which add functionality. However, similar to a fine-tuned violin, all components of a sensor system interact and influence the requirements for the others. Let me use again a mass flow meter as an example to illustrate this. If we were to design a high-end mass flow meter for research purposes, we could select sensor elements with a very narrow tolerance, then use high-quality electronic components for the signal processing circuit, and go on to apply as many calibration points as possible to achieve maximum precision. You will probably agree that that's not really a common scenario for a commercial medical device. Usually we have to counterbalance the cost of the components of our system. The message I would like to leave you with here is that sensors are valuable components of this equation because fine-tuning the sensor, which is at the core of the system, can lower the overall product cost and at the same time improve the performance of the device. I'm not one for buzzwords, but let me rather show you what IST can bring to the collaboration table. IST produces sensor elements which are ready to use, in the sense that they can be designed into new medical devices, or they can be customized to fit to an housing or to an evaluation method of your choice. New sensor design in that sense are usually available within 2 to 3 months. Those sensor elements can then be assembled into flow channels or housings, and also equipped in some cases with electronics and pre-factory calibration. We support our medical customers during the whole evaluation, qualification and product life cycle phases, and that is mainly in regard to quality issues, where we start with the quality design, and then bill of material for qualification, very often an FMEA, also for the processes. And then very often in the ramp up or in the serial production phase, we specify the quality requirements also for the inspection. Some automated optical inspection processes can be included. Also first production sampling analysis and so on. Here are some detailed pictures of our sensor elements, which otherwise usually don't see because they are only a few millimeters small. I would start from the top left corner where the smallest PT1000 worldwide can be seen. And to the right of it is an silicon-based flow sensor, again with the active area in the very end with a small membrane for very fast response time and application in ventilators. The next to the right would be an ultra-fast humidity sensor, which is suitable also for condensation conditions, so humid air again, 100% condensation. On the bottom left corner is a microheating element which can have custom dimensions and be used, for example, in conditioning operational conditions for optical devices and so on. Also here is a detail of our glucose amperometric sensor where an enzyme is immobilized on the surface and can be dipped, for example, in a microwell to monitor cell cultures, but can be also further adapted for online measurement on patients. On the right corner, is the last one, a conductivity sensor. And this one you can see in the control units for monitoring dialysis processes, including blood dialysis, of course. Moving on to some housed sensor elements. Here are examples of again a sensor array for glucose and lactate, and a humidity module which comes pre-calibrated, and a peristaltic micropump, and two flow modules, the left one being for liquids and recalibrated with water, and the right one for gases pre-calibrated with air on inert gas. Both of them give off an digital signal in the I2C format. Thank you very much for your attention, for sticking until the end of my presentation, and I look forward to a discussion.